This is INCradio DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
Welcome to How You Doin, a health and wellness podcast from INCradio New York Satellite Studio. Whether you're on the go or taking a minute to breathe, we've got real tips, good conversations, and weekly check-ins to help you live well without losing your city pace. Are you ready? Let's get to it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to How You Doin. This is, as we all know, a health and wellness program brought to you by INCradio New York, where we talk about health, real habits, and balancing it out. So whether it's physical wellness or everyday habits that help us feel better in our body, this is our space to take a pause and learn and check in with ourselves. So let's get to it. We hope that everyone is doing well today. It's not as cold as it was in the past, several weeks. So we hope that everyone is, doing better. I know that several people have been getting sick these past couple of weeks. So please make sure to take care of yourselves, check in with your doctors to make sure you're taking the right medications and stay warm. So today here on How You Doin', as you all know, we are going to talk about eye health myths part 2. We couldn't stop with just one part. We had to make a second part. And with that, I will reintroduce our very special guest, Sister Gemma Stirba.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me back here at INCradio New York. Love talking more about eye health. You guys, I know, had a lot more questions, and we are so excited. Sister Mika and myself can't wait to answer all of those questions for you. And if you have any more questions, please type them in. We'll be more than happy to entertain them. But like what Sister Mika said, it's a beautiful day here in New York. We finally have a beautiful sun shining upon us with the beautiful snow that's left over. I think it's going to take a few days before all this goes away, but it's just beautiful though. Right, Sister Mika?
Yes, definitely. I know we just had snow. It rained and washed the snow away, and then it snowed again, and then it snowed a little bit more. But agreed, today is such a nice day out. So we hope that you're not only spending today with your family, but also with us here on How You Doin'. All right. So last week we talked about supporting our immunity. So we hope that you took some of the advice that we gave last week and, made sure to input them into our everyday life so that we can all have better health and better immune system so that we can fight off all of the sicknesses that is going around, because there's definitely a lot of them right now. Okay, so for all of us, especially in our YouTube live chat, in regards to our topic last month, it was last month, right? It was exactly a month ago that we did Eye Health Myths Part 1. So which myth surprised you the most? And if you have any other questions, like what Sister Gemma said, please make sure to drop it in the chat and we'll answer it throughout our broadcast. All right, so let's get to it, right? One of the questions that we received from the last episode is from Kalyan, and he asked, is it true that if you get LASIK surgery, you constantly need to get it done afterwards?
Great question, Kalyan. Not necessarily, because it depends on your prescription. But for the most part, it's not. There's some modification that you may have to do for certain prescription, for a certain amount of correction that needed to be done or performed through LASIK. But just to simply answer the question, it kind of depends.
That's right. So what are some of the factors that would, affect how often we get, LASIK surgery?
So ideally, we always say it's correcting it, right? Most of that prescription. Technology do improve and changes constantly. I remember back in the days, you can only correct as much as like minus 200 prescription. But now you can go as much as minus 800 prescription or plus 800 prescription, that kind of a range. So if you're in the top 10%, range of prescription, then there may not. So depending also on the thickness of the cornea or the front surface of the eye. So if you don't have a lot of thick cornea, then they may not be able to fully correct the whole lot of a prescription. So the amount of prescription is dependent on how much thickness of the LASIK procedure needs to be performed. And then they all usually, that's part of part of the procedure. There will be that modification that will need to be performed. But normally that's a pretty simple. You won't have to go through the whole thing all over again. And for the most part, a lot of patients and a lot of people may not realize LASIK only corrects your distance. So if you're, for all our brethren and people out there, if you wear reading glasses or if you wear progressive bifocal, it's not going to correct the reading part of the prescription. So you may still need to wear reading glasses after LASIK.
There you go. Oh, and it's so good that you mentioned that, because I was just going to ask, like, we know that LASIK surgery isn't for everyone. So thank you so much for mentioning that, Sister Gemma. We have a few more questions. Do blue light filtering glasses really help with digital eye strain? And that question is from Sister Joydy Parsha.
Hi, Sister Joydy. Yes, if you are symptomatic. So not everyone gets symptoms with digital strain. Some people can be on a digital screen hours with no visual issues, symptoms, like eye strain, headache afterwards, but some do. So if you're one of those people who get that symptoms, eye strain, fatigue, headache type of thing, visual, like color, you're seeing some colors afterwards, then yeah, digital blue filter, a really good kind of blue filter will help. But be careful for everyone when you're shopping or looking for blue. Not all blue filter are created equal. There's good quality one, there's not good quality one. So the idea is how much of a filter you need to, how much of the blue that you need to filter, because you don't want to do 100%, or you don't even want to go that high of 89. You don't want to go that high of filter, but you just want a little bit amount of filter that will still help you to function and appreciate the screen that you're looking at, the colors and such.
I remember before blue light filtering glasses were a thing, there used to be these like extra like screens that people put on, like, on the computer screens to like filter out, and it does make the screen kind of like grayish, like it really zaps the color out of it. So yes, definitely make sure that you do your research when it comes to these blue light filtering, so that, again, like what Sister Gemma said, you can still enjoy the colors, especially if you're like watching a movie, if you're binging on a TV show. Right. You could spend hours on hours in front of your device. So you have to make sure that you protect your eyes as well. All right, here's another.
Just to reiterate, Sister Mika, the idea of the blue filter, a lot of it is mostly affects our sleep. Okay. So that's why it's always advisable that we avoid any screen exposure at least a couple hours before bedtime, because it keeps so exposure to blue light makes our brain think that it's still daytime. So you can potentially, be on your screen all night long and you can stay awake because your brain is telling you it's daytime, right? So we need to start we need to decrease exposure to increase your melatonin production so that it tells your brain, okay, it's nighttime. So that's also where the blue filter glasses is important for when you're kind of laying down or getting ready to go to bed.
Go to bed. That's why I couldn't sleep last night, and I was just on my phone. I'm still awake. Definitely need that for myself as well. So here's another question when it comes to taking care of our eyes, right? We mentioned that from Sister Arlen Jameo. What natural vitamin supplements will help in eye care?
Thank you for that question, Sister Arlen. There is a lot. There's a lot of vitamins out there. In general, good, like what we, Sister Mika, have always talked about in a lot of our podcasts here is good habits, right? Good food habit. So there's really no one for all type of thing. Lutein and zeaxanthin is where you hear about for those who have advanced stage macular degeneration. So those are, we get those from vegetables, green leafy vegetables. So is it good for those who doesn't have that eye condition? Maybe just for a regular, normal, healthy, whole being, right? Whole healthy, not necessarily for the eye health. Lutein and zeaxanthin is more for those who have developing advanced or intermediate stage of macular degeneration. Vitamin A is really good for your eyes. So carrots. So I'm sure we all heard about how carrots is good for our eyes. We hear that even in preschool. But that's more, carrots not going to cure our vision. It's not going to make us 20/20. It's not going to make us avoid wearing glasses, but it's going to improve our night vision. So for those who, already symptomatic about nighttime, having some vitamin A is really good. We can get those from carrots, like what I mentioned. And then omegas. Fish oil is really good for those who have dry eyes. So it's a good source of triglycerides. So, you can get that from your salmon, from your fish, right? But maybe I'm guilty of it too. Like, we don't get to consume a lot of these natural food all the time, right, in our diet, unfortunately. So yes, supplementing it with these vitamins will help so that you can kind of meet at least the requirements to stay healthy. But those are probably the three big ones that helps in terms of, in general, like eye health per se. Omega is really good, not only for, for our eyes, for dry eyes particularly, but also it's good for the heart, good for the brain. So it has a lot of benefits for fish oil.
Yes, thank you so much. And then another thing. So when it comes to taking care of our eyes, right, we do have brethren, or for the people who are diabetic. So how many times in a year should you consult with your optometrist or even ophthalmologist if you are diabetic? And if you're healthier, right, how often should you go to the eye doctor?
At least 1 year. Get your eyes checked at least once a year, whether or not you're diabetic, whether or not you're perfectly healthy, you don't wear glasses. It's kind of like the same thing as getting a physical, right? Yearly physical. You want to have a good checkup anyways, because you never know. A lot of eye conditions, we may not necessarily have any symptoms. So that's why I always say, and then I know a lot also don't get dilated. So I highly, highly, highly recommend. I know we're not a big fan of dilation because of the symptoms or the side effects of it being blurry and sensitive to light afterwards. But it is a really good habit to get your eyes dilated. So if you're diabetic, at least every year getting a dilated exam, because your optometrist or your eye doctor would need to evaluate the retina. So I always tell this, and maybe this is not a common knowledge for a lot, but the eye is really the first organ of the body where you would see uncontrolled diabetes. It's not going to show up anywhere else yet in your body, but it's going to show up in your eyes. So that's why us as optometrists, we coordinate with your primary care physician or your endocrinologist. If there's any early signs of changes in your retina, then that means that we probably need to control or even take a better handle of our diabetes condition. So this is so critical. So 2 organs of the body that affects diabetes first is your eyes and your foot. So those are the things that needs to be checked regularly now for diabetic patients. And if you already have some what we call diabetic retinopathy and different stages of diabetic retinopathy, then you may have to see your eye doctor more than once a year. It could be twice a year. It could be 3 times a year. It kind of depends on what findings they have found in your retina.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much for that. Now, a lot of the ladies nowadays put on eyelash extensions. So, one of the questions is from Sister Melissa. How risky are lash extensions for infection?
This is a very good question. I get this question a lot too. It's maybe not a lot infection, but it could happen. It could happen. So just be careful when you're having that procedure done, particularly the gel. A lot of people, it's a reaction to the gel that they use for lash extension. So I've seen it. It happened. I've had, they always say to us, if it happens in your chair, that means it's common enough that it happens, right? So reaction to the gel, and then if you're hypersensitive, and unfortunately, in a lot of the cases, what happens is when you have a bad reaction to that gel that they use for lash extension, you may lose your lashes even more, and it become even more a permanent thing. So that's one of those things that you kind of have to weigh in your pros and your cons. But there are, I've seen I think this is also the technology with lashes that changes, adapting, having better product, better gel. And there's some that you don't even have to use a gel. So that's even better if you don't have to use. But yeah, that's just be careful about that. It's not, so one is infection. Yes, you can have an infection because if we're not, I know there's certain ones that you have to replace every so often, right? You have to go see the person who helped you with it. So you just have to make sure you keep up with it so you avoid the infection. And then there's that reaction of it that can lead to any kind of like contact dermatitis reaction into your lid and lashes, and can spread throughout your eyelid. So just be careful and just read up more about it and ask a lot of questions when you're having this done. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. And one of the things that's big nowadays too are like lash serums. So everyone, please also be careful when it comes to lash serums, because you can get, you can be allergic to any of the ingredients, be irritated. Sister Gemma mentioned that you can possibly also lose your actual eyelash. So yeah, again, please make sure to do your research. And if it doesn't feel good, like on your eyes, maybe take a break. All right. So we have more questions. This is from Kachad. Is it unhealthy to rotate wearing glasses that have slightly different grades?
Hi, Kachad. Good question. No, it's not necessarily bad, and it's not necessarily damaging your eye. You will just notice you may just notice that you prefer one or the other. It's kind of the same thing. You'll just see, obviously your updated glasses is more clearer than the other. It's not. It's just that your personal comfort per se, but not that it's gonna. It's not gonna make your prescription even worse. It's not gonna make your eyesight bad. It's just more like your comfort, how comfortable you would be wearing the glasses. So yeah. Hope that answers the question, Kachan.
Thank you so much. We have more questions, newer questions actually, from our YouTube live chat. All right. So Sister Emma says, I've noticed that my eye keeps twitching, sometimes for days at a time. Is that something that I should be concerned about?
This is a great question. Eye twitching is basically overactive of your one of your cranial nerves, facial nerve. So usually that is the cause of 3 things: lack of sleep, stress, and too much caffeine. So I always say, if you're able to avoid those 3 things, and the sister Mika's like, lack of sleep. I mean, stress. Who doesn't have a stressful life? I love coffee. I love coffee. So it's but But yeah, so it's not really a bad thing. That just means that you have over of those three things, and that's why you have an overactive facial nerve. But another thing that can help relieve that is using like a cold compress. So face towel, cold water, or like ice pack, wrap it with paper towel, face towel, and put it over that eye. It helps kind of calm that nerve. So those are some tips you can do at home.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sister Gemma. I'm so guilty of all three. How do I cut down? Cold compress it is. And then we have more questions. So for Sister Maricel, she said that she thought that she was having itchy eyes because of allergies, but it turns out it's her lashes curling inside towards like her eye. Is that something that's normal? What causes that?
It's not necessarily a normal thing. It could happen. That's the fancy name called entropion, where the growth of the eyelash can, grow inwardly. It could happen. So go see your eye doctor and have them remove it. That's one way of relieving that symptoms or discomfort. But yeah, hopefully that answered that question.
Yes. And then one question. So we talked about getting your eyes checked by the eye doctor. One of our viewers, Brother Justin Talyawaga, he says that you know how I think it's to check pressure in the eyes when they blow like air on the eyes. It's uncomfortable. And when they change the different glasses, so which one looks better, this one or like number one or number two? But I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but I get so much pressure in having to choose. Like, what if I choose the wrong thing? I wonder if anyone else does that, and how does the whole eye checkup work?
Yeah,
Sister
that's
Gemma?
I love that question. So the air puff, yeah, unfortunately, that is part of your eyes down. It is probably a most common stressful thing to a lot of people because you're trying to anticipate and you're trying to keep your eye open. We even have, like a lot of, joke about it in office, like, oh, how do you keep your eye open? But that's a necessary part of the screening or your examination or measurement, if I should state that way, because that's important tool to help if you are at risk for glaucoma. So glaucoma is we mentioned in the last podcast that is condition or the disease of the optic nerve that it's a silent blinding disease where it affects your sight vision, right? So elevated high pressure is not a good thing. It will affect your optic nerve and it can deteriorate or atrophy or kill it eventually. So it's an important part of your measurement of your eye exam. There are other ways to do eye pressure, there's one that touches, like very slightly touches. So it's not a puff test. There's the one that your doctor would do under a soot lamp with a blue light. So it slightly touches the front surface of your eye. So it necessarily have that blow puff. So, loosen the anxiety. So there's a couple of ways that we're able to measure that one. So, yeah, but I know in general places or general eye care places, the puff is kind of like the common thing that we do. So, or the machine that we all uses. Now, the other question, so Sister Mika and Brother Justin was mentioning in our chat, that's the phoropter. That's the one. Which one looks better, one or two? So that's how we are measuring your glasses prescription. I know this could be really stressful to a lot of people also because I always get like, oh, am I getting exam? Did I pass? And they're always like conscious, like, I don't know, take me back. I'm not sure if I answered that correctly.
What if I choose the wrong one?
Are you gonna give me a bad? Am I gonna end up with a bad prescription? Okay, let me settle your calm or your nerve. it's not a quiz. You're not being tested. Um, for the most part, we already know what your answer will be. Which one is better, one or two? For the most part, we already know what your answer is. We're just trying to refine it, like fine tuning. That's what. So I always say, using that phoropter, the little glasses, flipping the lenses, that's kind of like getting measurement. Like if you're getting tailored glasses or tailored dress, for example, you're getting measured specific. How much should your length be? How much should your waistline be? So that's kind of the same idea. So don't stress about it. Just do the best you can. And disclaimer, we don't need to know which one is brighter, which one is darker. We don't need to know, oh, this one has double look. We just need to know which one is better, one or two. To make that process simpler for both that doctor and for you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ate Gemma. That makes me feel a little better. Because it really is difficult. I'm like, it's really not that different from each other. But yes, so you look at the time. We're having so much fun discussing about eye health that we didn't even notice. But I know we talked about it earlier, but in your closing statement, Sister Gemma, we know that we see a lot of advice and tips on social media when it comes to eye health, which may or may not necessarily be true. So as an optometrist, what do you advise for, everyone who goes on social media and looks at all of these quote unquote advice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for all of us who are here on this podcast, listening and watching, be careful with those people call themselves a health influencers, okay, in social media. There's a lot of them. I think it's becoming more increasing every single day. Me being an eye professional, we also have social media in my practice. And I just see all these things that, being shared that are not real and they're not true. And it's, I weary because some, my patients are looking at these things and watching these. And so I really make a great effort to properly educate every patient because it's not, it could be super dangerous to follow what you see on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatnot. These influencers, they call themselves, but make sure that they're valid. Please always seek for the advice of your healthcare professional. Have a good relationship with your eye doctor or your primary care physician that you are able to ask these questions. Don't feel bad if you have to say, hey, I saw this on social media. Is it true? That. Or, I hear that this procedure or this regimen that you do at home is good for you. Like always ask for your healthcare professionals for that, make sure that they're valid, that there are, because they're the ones that are in practice, they're the ones that have the knowledge and the information about it. They're the professionals that can guide you. And then if you want to go research online, make sure that what you're reading is also good resource, right? They're valid. They're like on studies, they're like journals that were done studies. They're FDA approved. So those are the things that make sure that you really are really read about researching it. Those are the only thing. We gotta be more smart. We gotta be smart in looking at these things, watching these things on social media, because it's very easy to be swayed away by misinformation, myth that's not even true, and it just affects how you will function, how you would take care of your eye health or your vision. So hopefully, like, being here with Sister Mika, even in a short period of time, being able to talk about these things, so at least, stimulate your curiosity, being more aware that not everything that you read and see is true. And we appreciate the questions that you ask, even if it's after the show and you're watching this later on throughout the week. post your questions, and we can put something together for all of you, so that you are properly informed.
Yes, thank you so much, Sister Gemma, for being with us again. We love having you with us, and thank you so much for answering all of our questions. To all of our viewers and listeners, yes, don't be afraid to ask questions, and more importantly, ask questions to the right people. Right? It's very easy to Google a question, to go online and ask a question, but you always have to think critically. Right? Is this true? I should ask like a healthcare professional about this, or I should ask Sister Gemma when she's on INC Radio again. So today we hope that you learned something new. Do one thing that protects your eyes based on facts and not myths. So taking screen breaks, right? Omega-3, more water, less caffeine, less stress, and hopefully, that helps all of us take care of our vision. So that is all for our show today. Thank you so much to the church administration for giving us a platform to share and speak about important topics like these. Greetings to our beloved executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, and our current Deputy Executive Minister, Brother Angelo Iranio V. Manalo. We would also like to greet our District Minister, Brother Sheridan Santos, our Assistant District Minister, Brother Neil Patrick Amalda, our CFO Advisor, Brother Jason Flores. And of course, thank you to our INC Radio Station Manager, Brother Wally Taray, and our Executive Producer, Kiyameli Andaya, and all of our INC Radio techs that help us run the show. So we hope that you learned something new today. Good information matters, especially when it comes to our health. Join us next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 a.m. Philippine Time, and we are going to talk about mobility. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week here on How You Doin'?